Hey everyone, this week I am going on vacation, so I am going to share with you what I'm taking with me. Stay tuned. All right, so I am kind of approaching this a little bit like a working vacation. So I'm taking 6 fragrances with me. 3 of them are just kind of easy, standard, good, easy, dumb reaches for me. Not my common, like kind of vacation-y sense, because they're newer to me. So they're newer, but they're dumb reaches for me. And then 3 that are kind of, I'm still kind of getting to know, getting to understand them, but they have some promise for me. So I kind of want to get to know them a little bit more with the hopes that maybe they grow on me even more than they already have. So let's start off with number 1, which is in a weird bottle, but that's because the atomizer on the actual bottle broke. So I transferred it into a bottle I bought off Amazon, and that's Le Beau EDT from Jean-Paul Gaultier. I think the notes for this are, it's like a 3-note breakdown. And by the way, the atomizer on this bottle from Amazon is not nearly as good as the one on the actual real bottle, so that's too bad. This one I got last year, and I've kind of been middling on it, to be honest with you. It's one of those ones where I feel like I like it, but it's just too, like, overwhelming. It's like bergamot, coconut, and tonka bean, I believe. And sure, I kind of get the creamy coconut aspect to it, and it comes across as tropical. I feel like there's like pineapple and maybe orange up in the top as well. And the experience I've had with this one is that every time I've worn it, it's too strong. Like even just a spray, it's just been overwhelming. And the thing that's kind of changed that is as I've kind of worn it in spite of that, and I've gotten familiar with it, and I've smelled it when I'm not near it, like if I spray it on like a strip or something like that and leave it on my desk and I walk back into my office and I smell that, it's this sort of thing where I'm like, wait a minute, there's more there than I'm like initially seeing. So this has been one where I've been wearing it more frequently in the last like month or 2, just to try and get more familiar with it, to try and evaluate exactly what it is that's kind of sticking in my side about it, because it's like a scent profile that I like and everyone that smells it really likes, but it's one that I tend to want to scrub after about 30 minutes because it's just too overwhelming for me. And I think that's true even when I'm not like digging my nose into it like this, you know, like smelling it out and about. I feel like that's the thing, is I need to get this more diffused in order to enjoy it. And even when I spray it, like, you know, back of my neck or something like that, it's still borderline for me. So that being said, it's kind of weird. I like this. I feel like in spite of that, it just feels like it's a little bit strong, a little bit overwhelming. So we're gonna give it some more shots. All right, what I should have done actually probably is this next one up first, because I think it is actually probably my least favorite out of everything that I'm talking about here today. But it's one that I don't hate. It's just not one that I reach for, and that's Eau Fraiche from Versace. This one for me is, it's very related to a fragrance that I was talking about recently, which is Grapefruit Generation from Dias & Durga. And I feel like the reason why is because Dias & Durga's Grapefruit Generation dries down into this. It's not a bad scent. I think I've likened it before to like kind of like a 90s salon accord. Not like a modern day salon, and I like, because there's something classically clean about this. It's very watery, it's very fresh, so this is another situation where I feel like kind of out in the air, it kind of puts off a better vibe than the one when you're smelling it up close, or when you personally are wearing it. So that's kind of one of the things I've been experimenting with lately, is just kind of like when I smell these fragrances, when they've diffused. I was noticing that with, I've had a Tower Discovery set that I've been playing around with for a little while, and that was one of the things I noticed about those as well. They're so strong when you get near them. Not like burying your nose like this, but just close to them. They're very strong, but when they are diffused into the actual room itself, there's really something interesting going on. And this is kind of a similar situation. Like when you're up close like this, just has that clean, soapy kind of smell. But I feel like it's one of those situations where I wanna wear this, really heat up in my skin and kind of experience what happens then, because I have a feeling it'll be refreshing. but it's never really interested me enough to really give it a whole lot of wearings like that before. So that's one of the things that I'm kind of taking with me, just getting a little bit more familiar with it, and we'll see how I come out on the other end. All right, next up is one that I have actually talked about a couple times, and I've talked about it because I have been changing my mind on it slowly but surely, and that's Statik Olfactive's Into the Wild. I was pretty harsh on this one, I feel like. Well, at least in terms for me, pretty harsh, because I'm not usually too harsh on anything. If I hate something that much, I usually won't talk about it on my channel. And this one I felt bad about because it was like, the fragrance didn't do anything wrong, but my expectations going into it were wrong. So when I got it and I like hit that soapy note, I was like, oh man, that's a bummer, because I wasn't expecting a soapy note, didn't really want it to be there. But as I've gotten to know this fragrance more on its own terms and kind of as it was made, not as I wanted it to be made, I've been coming to appreciate it a lot more. It's actually been one of the fragrances that has kind of helped me turn the corner on soapy notes. And that's because after I've been able to kind of get past that with my nose, I would get so fixated on that one note, it was hard for me to smell anything else. And as I've kind of gotten to mature my nose in this regard, especially on this scent, and I've gotten past that, I am actually starting to pick up a lot more of that like Clean Earth Accord I think they have, or Clean Air Accord I think is one of those, like a Mountain Air Accord, something like that, like a Yeti footprint. And I'm starting to I'm finally able to see beyond the soapy note in this, which I find pretty interesting. There is a lot going on in here. There's a lot of richness that I really like. That's always been the case. But now it's a thing where I've kind of moved from being bothered by the soapy note to being indifferent about the soapy note to being interested. Kind of not, I wouldn't go so far as to say fascinated. Whoa. B just like kamikazed into the lens there. That was weird. Anyway. There's something going on here. I feel like maybe the soapy note was added to kind of counteract some of those earthy, dirty notes to prevent this from smelling unclean. I just feel like it was taken too far. And if it was dialed back a little bit, you'd have a little bit more balance and it would be a little bit easier to appreciate some of those other scents. But that being said, this is growing on me quite a bit. I have been enjoying wearing it more and more. I might even eventually get to the point where I realize I need a full bottle, which wouldn't be the end of the world, because if you've seen the full-size bottles of these, they're really beautiful. So I wouldn't mind owning one at some point. All right, rounding out the top three, these are the ones that they're not bad scents, they're not simple scents, but I consider them kind of easy reaches because the DNA for me is just appealing enough that I don't really have to think about it. I just enjoy these ones. And we're starting off with kind of an inception fragrance, and that is Hollister's Canyon Escape. Canyon Escape, as I kind of understand it, is a twist / clone of Mont Blanc's Explorer. And Explorer is itself a longer story, but it is Mont Blanc's clone / answer to Creed making a Ventus. So the long and the short of it is Mont Blanc makes Individual, Creed copies that with Santal Original, Mont Blanc answers that by making Explorer, which is a clone of a Ventus, and because Explorer is so much cheaper, I believe it is it's sold very, very well, and it has done very well for them. And Hollister has kind of, I think, evoked that here. I think the key difference that I get between a Ventus and Explorer kind of dials the age down a little bit in the way I think that they accomplish that. Takes away some of the oak moss and some of those other green elements, dials them down a little bit, dials up the sweetness and the fruitiness, and you get a really pleasant scent. Still is evocative of a Ventus, but isn't a direct clone. So Canyon Escape does just that. It is, I mean, if you have Explorer, you don't need this. If you don't have Explorer and you're looking for a like $25 version that does the trick, pretty short-lived, like you'll get a couple, 2 to 3 hours out of this. It's nothing powerful, but if you're just looking for something to give you kind of that fruity green, a little bit more dialed back, way more of the fruity element kind of DNA that you get from a Ventus, that masculine, kind of classic green fruity scent, this will do. This does the trick. Youthful, a little bit more youthful than a Ventus, like I said, but pretty good overall. Next up is from Calvin Klein. It's last year's CK1 release, Reflections. This is one of the best, if not, in my opinion, the best CK1 flanker. Better, I think, than the original as well. This is a great tea fragrance. Tea and lemon. This is like a lemon tea fragrance. So if you're familiar with other tea fragrances, I think Vintage 78 Green is a great example. This does a similar thing, except with way more citrus. So you're gonna get a way more citrusy tea sort of fragrance, but it still has that kind of watery, little bit herbaceous and earthy sort of thing that you get from tea. But the watery, the coolness, the refreshment, this is just a really nice, soft, pleasant fragrance. It's not overly sweet, it's not screechy, it's very soft, calming, cooling. It's just very nice. So this is a good relaxing reach. Great for hot weather. Like a lot of other CK1s, it's not gonna blow the doors off performance. None of these, I think, except for the Statik Olfactive, the rest of them are all, let me make sure. Yeah, Le Beau's okay. I get maybe 4 or 5 hours from Le Beau. But this one doesn't last as long. Doesn't need to though. This for me is just kind of like a nice refreshment. So that's how I approach it. CK1 Reflections, if you can still get it, it's great. Rounding out with the one that I think I'll probably end up wearing the most, and that is from Acqua di Parma, Bergamotto di Calabria. This one is great. I picked this up at the same time I picked up Myrto di Paneria, and as the name might suggest, this is just super super citruses all the way forward. You get a little bit of a greenness in there. I feel like this kind of is recreating the citrus. You're getting the juice, you're getting the greenness of that, but it is very, very much focused on the fruit. Very watery, juicy, sweet. I would say it's kind of slightly beyond what would naturally be the sweetness, you know? You smell this and it smells like it would taste like the sweetness of like a very light lemonade, you know what I mean? So to that end, I mean, it's just this really, if you really like lemon or bergamot, that sort of citrus, this is giving you that, but in kind of soft, sweet way, not going so far as like the Fruit Loops, where Fruit Loops is kind of like a creamy vanilla lemon sort of flavor. This still has the sharpness, but it's not punching you in the face. It's sharp, but it's still softened with the sweetness in a really, really pleasant way. This is like taking, you know, those moist towelettes that have kind of that lemony smell. This is if that was like natural smelling and like really, really, really just kind of appealing with its softness. Again, this is kind of like if you wanted to have like a really nice citrus laundry fragrance, this would be a great version of that, but it doesn't smell like dishwasher soap or any sort of like cleaning product. It's not that kind of citrus. This is just much more of like a very natural, juicy, watery, little bit of ice water even maybe, sort of citrus going on. And I love it. I mean, honestly, I love Acqua di Parma. I think they do great stuff across the board. I wish they were more easily available in the United States because there's so much stuff outside of that discovery set that I talked about that I would like to get my hands on, but it's kind of hard to do without just ordering decants, and that's expensive. So I'll probably do it at some point. Also, I have heard, the only insider industry info that I've ever received, there has been a reformulation on Fico di Amalfi, so I think that's coming like in the fall. If you feel strongly about Acqua di Parma and Fico di Amalfi, then you should pick up a bottle now while they still haven't reformulated, or while the old formulation is still available. I've been thinking about doing that myself just because I love Fico di Amalfi. The only reason I've kind of cooled on picking up backup bottles is because I've got backup bottles for other fragrances, and I'm still nowhere near getting to the bottom of those when I totally thought that I was going to. The one exception to that is 1 Million Lucky, which I will go through that bottle, so having a backup for that I don't mind so much, but I don't know. Still, Fico di Amalfi is a great fragrance, and if it has actually been ruined, I'm curious to actually smell and see how bad it is, but we'll see. So anyway, that's been me for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, let me know in the comments what you're wearing this summer, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.